All right, so good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're joining us from, everyone. My name is Jesse, and I am with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those who don't know or who are joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. This entire month of November, we are doing a series of space hangouts. We've got astronauts, spacecraft engineers, SpaceX, European Space Agency, NASA, a little bit of everyone. Today is arguably our most exciting hangout, and we'll introduce our speaker in just a minute. But right now, I want to give a chance for all our classes from across North America to do a bit of a shout out. We've got Miss Brecca's grade 7/8 in Chatham, Ontario.
On unit swear.
We've got Miss Sullivan's grade 10s in San Antonio, Texas.
Woo!
We've got Miss Simon's grade 7/8 also in Chatham, Ontario. We've got Miss Woods' grade 5/6s in Toronto, Ontario. Nice. We've got Miss Booth, grade 5s in Alameda, California. Okay, they're winning so far in enthusiasm. We've got Miss Moses, grade 5s in Bolton, Ontario. Hi, guys. Their mic's muted, but they're thrilled. And we've got Miss Christensen's 4 through 6s in Guelph, Ontario. Hi, guys. Awesome. Of course, the reason we're all here today is for our speaker, so we are joined live by Kevin J. DeBruin. He is a spacecraft systems engineer for the Aerospace Corporation, a former NASA rocket scientist, a two-time American Ninja Warrior, Eagle Scout, personal trainer, and outreach champion around the entire world. Without further ado, thank you so much for joining us, Kevin, and take it away.
All right. Hey, thank you for having me on. It is great to meet all of you guys. It's all great. I can see all of you down on my little screen here, so thank you for tuning in. I'm excited to get into it, to share what I've been doing specifically at NASA with you guys. So as you can see, I got this awesome poster behind me here. So this is like the robotic exploration throughout the solar system. It is the only thing my fiance will let me put up in the apartment right now because it matches the aesthetic. But I'm going to jump into the presentation. But before I do that, I want a little participation from all of you out there. So I'd like everybody, I'm not sure exactly what grades we have going on out there. So I want to see by show of hands if there's any first graders out there. Can you raise your hands? We'll see. I don't think I see any first graders. So hands down if they're out there. Second graders, raise your hands. I see some second graders. All right, hands down. All right, do I have any third graders out there? Raise your hands if you're in third grade. Oh, there's a bunch of them. There, I see you. Okay, hands down. Let's go. Fourth graders? Where are my fourth graders at? Oh, in the back. There you are. All right, hands down. Fifth graders? Where are the fifth graders at? There we go. Whole classroom, 2 classrooms, 3. All right, hands down. Sixth grade, where are you? Be proud. Oh, jumping all over. Awesome, awesome. All right, hands down. Settle down. Let's go to 7th grade. Where are the 7th graders? Oh, we're getting some activity. Very nice. Bend the back too. All right, hands on. 8th graders? Where's the 8th graders at? Oh, they're rambunctious. There you are. All right, hands down. Anybody over 8th grade? We got any high schoolers in here? No high schoolers? Oh, there's the high schoolers. All right, there we go. I was waiting for you guys. Didn't know if you could hear me. Awesome. All right, hands down. And the last one, anybody who's out of school. So teachers, throw your hands up. Go crazy. I want to see you. Awesome. Great. Well, it is great to meet all of you. So let's jump into the presentation now. And here we go. I'm going to share my screen. So right now you guys are going to be seeing what I'm seeing. Fantastic. All right. I'll let this load up. Beautiful. All right. So I'm going to talk to you guys about NASA JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which you can see here on the screen. Here's a picture of it up against the mountain backdrop in Pasadena, California, just outside of Los Angeles, where I worked at for over 3 years as a rocket scientist. So let's jump into it. So who am I? You guys heard a little bit about me. So I'm Kevin J. DeBruin. I design spaceships. I am literally a rocket scientist, and that is my most favorite thing that I get to say. I'm very proud of it. So my official title was a systems engineer. So I'm a former systems engineer at JPL. You can see on the bottom right picture here, this is my car. It's got the license plate, rocket scientist. Just very proud of it. It's taken me a long time to get here and to be working with JPL over the last 3 years at NASA. And then I'm also an American Ninja Warrior. So throw your hands up in the air if you've seen that show, if you're a fan of it, if you like it. I have been competing on that show for the last 2 years. I started coming out of bodybuilding and really just wanted, like, American Ninja Warrior just sounded cool. So I wanted to test that out and try it. It's hard. I will tell you, I am not the greatest. I can make do. I do pretty well. I got a lot of training going on, and they just opened up applications for season 11, which is the next season. So I'm getting ready to submit my application for that so I can hopefully come back and compete for a 3rd season. And then I'm an Eagle Scout. So if there's any Boy Scouts or boys in the room that have the opportunity to join scouting, girls, you can join Girl Scouts, I would recommend doing so. It's a great organization to give back, to learn leadership and team building skills. And it's really helped me a lot in getting into college, working with teams, and then also getting my job at NASA JPL. When they saw Eagle Scout on my resume, it stood out. It was something unique. So if you can go through service organizations and achieve accomplishments throughout those, that will really help you get into any positions that you'd want to do for your career. And then I'll just point out that this is Mars Curiosity. This is a model. This is full size. This is actually how big that rover is that's roving around on Mars. And then this is just a fun photo I put together of me looking like Iron Man, wearing an astronaut glove in front of Europa. So Europa is what we're going to talk about in depth today. But I want to tell you guys a little bit of like how I got to NASA. So why did I want to work there? Space is awesome. Rockets are cool. You look up in the night sky, and a lot of people just see it as beautiful. But this guy right here, Homer Hickam Jr., he is a former NASA engineer who trained the astronauts. And this movie, October Sky, is based upon his life story about how he built rockets from seeing a satellite go across in the sky. He launched them, eventually became a NASA engineer training astronauts. And he wrote this book, Rocket Boys, which turned into the movie October Sky. So I saw that when I was just 10 years old, so about your age, and I knew I wanted to design spaceships. So it took me 16 years to do it, but eventually I became the NASA rocket scientist. So I got a little autograph copy here. This is a Christmas present from my mom. It says, "To Kevin, a true and fellow rocket boy, I hope you enjoy your aerospace career. Aim high, Homer Hickam." So I look at the date on there, and yeah, that's December 2011. So I got that while I was still an undergrad, about 7 years ago. It's been a long journey. So the reason I asked you guys all to raise your hands to show me what age group you guys were, if you're 1st grade, 2nd grade, is I want to show you what I used to look like when I was sitting in your seats. It wasn't that long ago that when I was in 3rd grade, just like you guys are, I was sitting right there. Got sitting here, 8th grade. So you can see that it hasn't been that long. It seems like a while, but I was exactly where you were, trying to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I decided I wanted to be getting involved with NASA and space exploration. So I continued on, got to hit up the high schoolers here. So I went through my high school years, pretty much look essentially the same, rocking a Miami Dolphins jersey here in my junior photo. And then I went on to University of Wisconsin-Platteville, which was my undergraduate college, where I got a bachelor's in mechanical engineering and also a minor in business administration. And then when I went on to Georgia Tech to get my master's in aerospace engineering. And then right after Georgia Tech, I jumped right into NASA JPL. And this is the building I worked in. So I'm going to show you guys the process for how we design their spacecrafts. So this is a Project Formulation office, as you can see here in the beginning, in the middle with this text. But it's full of a bunch of fun stuff. Like this is an art piece about actually one of our spacecraft. So this is a spacecraft that was turned into artwork. We've got really cool things on the wall. Like this is actually orbits of one of our missions turned into an art piece. And we have a styrofoam Optimus Prime that we have hanging out here as well. So we do get to have a little bit of fun. In this design environment, we like to make it almost look like a classroom. So if you take your eyes off the screen, look around left or right, you see that you have your teachers put up some things in the room, things to spark creativity or create a warm, welcoming atmosphere. That's the same thing that we've done in Project Formulation. We're having ideas, we're brainstorming. So then we go into this room. This is the room inside of that building that's called left field. It's where we have all our good brainstorming and crazy ideas. The craziest ideas come out of left field. So this is the door going into left field, and we come inside, and there's wall-to-wall whiteboards and sticky notes all over the place. And we get a bunch of people from a bunch of different areas. We have some scientists, some engineers to try and answer the questions that we don't have answers to. Like, how are we going to go about doing that? So we start with just an idea. Like, let's say we want to go to Jupiter and study its atmosphere. How should we do that? What are we looking for? So once we figure out some of the science, then the engineering comes into it of like, how do we observe these things? So do you see my cursor here in the bottom left corner? You see all these boxes, these little bins full of stuff. So in these bins, there are actually Legos. So in this room, I got paid to build spacecrafts out of Legos and show them to other people. It's one of the most fun parts about that job was building things out of Legos, building spaceships out of Legos. Like, we can talk about a design, you hear me, you hear my voice, and I can tell you that I have a round spacecraft that has 2 solar array wings coming off the side of it, but you have to create this image in your head. Here, I can actually grab the Legos and build it up really quickly and show you and point to stuff. This is here, this is there, and then fly it around the room and say, okay, we need to point this way as we go into orbit. So that's a great thing, getting paid to play with Legos. But then once we kind of solidify what is the direction we want to go, what kind of idea we have, we organize it, we put it all together so you can see here, this is in left field, this is at the end of one of those brainstorming sessions, everything we've laid out. We have a little patio because it's California. I know a bunch of you may have snow, those in Ontario, I'm sorry. I used to live in Wisconsin, so I've experienced enough snow in my life. So now we can have our meetings outside year round. And when we come out of these meetings, we then go into this room called TeamX. As you can see, there are computers everywhere. Everyone's behind a computer, and they're all linked up on an internal system. So if my computer is producing some results, that's giving numbers out of it, and someone else needs those numbers, it flows right into that other person's computer. It's kind of like how we have our own little internet here. Think of this as like Twitter for spacecrafts, and it's only for spacecrafts. We're able to send information back and forth and talk to each other very quickly. So this is how we increase our design. We get more details. We figure out what are the actual parts that we're going to be putting together. How much do these parts weigh? How much do they cost? That's one of the big things that we're looking for, is to be able to figure out how much it's going to weigh, how much power it's going to take, like how big of solar panels or how many batteries or maybe a nuclear generator, and then how much it costs. Because we got to make sure that we do this efficiently so we can do as much space exploration as possible. So we don't want our missions to cost too much. We want to be able to make sure we can do them, but also not go crazy and spend all their money. So Europa Clipper is one of the projects that I was working on at JPL. And it went through a similar process here where there was brainstorming, and this is what the concept is that is being built right now. So you might be hearing Europa Clipper, like what is that? So Europa Clipper is the name of the spacecraft. So that's this computer simulation right here. And Clipper is named after ships that would clip or jump from port to port. So it's going to be flying by Europa collecting information. So Europa, what is that? Like Europe, like the country? No. So we're going into our solar system. So we bring it up here. We have our 8 planets. We're going to zoom in on Jupiter. So Jupiter has over 70 moons, but these are the 4 Galilean moons. We've got Callisto, Ganymede, Europa, and Io. So Io is the most volcanically active body in the solar system. These are a bunch of volcanoes and sulfuric acid all over the place, and sulfur. We have Europa, which we'll dive into a little bit more in a second. I think Ganymede is the biggest moon in the solar system. It is actually larger than the planet Mercury. which is crazy. And then we have Callisto, which we believe is one of the oldest bodies in the solar system because of all the craters on it. You can see all these little holes, all these impact areas. We can estimate the age of a moon or of a body by how many times it's been impacted. We have a equation that we use to estimate its age, and Callisto tops off at one of the oldest things that we've seen. But Europa, that's the interesting one. So let's bring it up here. It looks like a marble, almost like a ball of water with some red spots on it. Well, that's exactly what it is it is a frozen ball of water that has a liquid ocean underneath its surface. So we have ice, we have these red deposits on top that we believe are coming from the volcanoes and landing on the surface, or maybe it's stuff that's coming up through the ice from the ocean, and it's actually the inside of this moon being shown on the surface. So we're going to go there because we're looking for the ingredients of life. We believe that Europa has the most potential for life in our solar system outside of Earth. And because of that, we believe that because of life that we know here on Earth, you need three things. You need water, chemistry, and energy to have a place that has habitability or be able to live there, to make it your habitat. Well, Europa is just a big ball of water that's frozen on the outside, so we can check that box for water. We know that from our Galileo missions and our Voyager missions, other spacecrafts that have launched in the 1970s and in the 1980s. Now, chemistry. We're looking for the building blocks of life, the things that you find in rocks. Specifically, we're looking for carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, abbreviated SHNAPS. The teachers will understand that, and that's how I remember all of those elements. So those are the building blocks of life. You put those together to form certain molecules. That's what we're looking for out there. We sometimes call that the biosignatures of life. Then we need energy. So we need a way to power life. If you look outside, what's that big bright thing in the sky? It's the sun. So here on Earth, we are about 93 million miles away from the sun, and our plants use the sun's energy for photosynthesis. So they take the sun's energy in, and they use that to live, to run their metabolism. Well, Jupiter, this bad boy here, is over 5 times further away from the sun, almost 500 million miles. And the sun's energy falls off, and it isn't strong enough to power photosynthesis out that far. And even if it did, it's an icy surface, and we're underneath it. So the sunlight can only go down about 200 meters in our ocean. So we're looking for life that we think might be on the bottom of the ocean there. So how does it get its energy? Well, you see these things here. This is a picture from Earth. These are chimneys or black smokers that are found on the ocean floor, releasing salts and minerals. They're like underwater volcanoes that give way to life because they give off chemical energy, and the animals and plants down there use a thing called chemosynthesis, using chemical energy instead of light energy from photosynthesis to run their metabolism and power their life. So we believe that that's going on out at Jupiter and Europa because there's those 4 Galilean moons I showed you earlier. They all kind of dance around Jupiter in a special formation. And to do that, they all have gravity. So they push and pull on each other. So make a fist with your hand, make a fist, and that's like what Europa is. And then when someone pulls on it, open your fist just a little bit, and then it goes away, close your fist. So you can see that your fist is opening and closing, and that movement is what we think Europa is doing. We think it moves about 30 meters a day. So it's getting stretched and squished, stretched and squished. And then that mechanical energy, everybody rub your hands together. If you rub them together, you start feeling friction, that's heat. So we believe that that's the energy source of what's giving way to potential life out at Europa. So we're going to take a look out there and go see if we can find it. So Europa Clipper is going to go out there. I'm going to jump past this one. I think you guys would like the next video a lot better if I can get to it. 1 second. The computer is, oh, you see the blue wheel. Oh, yep, it jumped me out. Give me 1 second. I'll jump back in here for you guys and girls. Thank you for bearing with me. Yeah, this one. Okay, so I'm going to jump into here So we think that there may be plumes on the surface here. So plumes are like geysers. Like if you accidentally knock over a fire hydrant with a car and then the water shoots up, that's what we think might be happening out at Europa. We've seen it with our telescopes, the Hubble Space Telescope, and it would be releasing the ocean up into the atmosphere, the external area around Europa, because Europa doesn't actually have an atmosphere like we have here on Earth. So we think it's just spewing possibly some of its inner contents into outer space. And I'm trying to jump to the next slide. It's yelling at me. Ooh. Sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody. There it is. Oh, close. Let's try that one more time. All right. So it might be difficult to see, but this is tracing the orbit of Europa Clipper. So right here is Jupiter. Europa is this blue circle. It's going around here. And then these different colored lines is Europa Clipper flying by Europa. And each of these white lines shows where it flies by. So it's going to be doing that over the course of 2.5 years. It's going to be flying by, collecting information, instead of being in orbit around Jupiter or being in orbit around Europa. It's in orbit around Jupiter because the radiation environment around Jupiter is so intense. It really brings our spacecraft a lot of damage, and we don't want to damage our spacecraft too quickly. So we come in really close to Europa, take a bunch of pictures and science information with our instruments, which are these lines here, and then we go back out into kind of the normal radiation of space, which is easier for our spacecrafts, while it processes that data, and then it comes back in and hustles through to collect the information again. So each one of those flybys kind of looks like this. These colored bars turning on are different scientific instruments starting to collect data. This is a camera. The blue and pink you see is the camera taking pictures back and forth to get a really nice close-up image with high resolution of the surface. And then we fly away when we turn off instruments, the further and further out we get, till approximately like 66,000 kilometers away. Then we stop collecting information and we start doing data analysis. So I want to run through that one more time. So we got the different colored bars coming on, like a magnetometer. We're trying to figure out like how thick the ice shell is, like how much is an icy surface, and then how deep is that ocean. So we think the ocean might be about 100 kilometers deep on average, which actually means it would have 2 to 3 times as much water as all of Earth. Because on Earth, our oceans only on average are about 3.5 kilometers deep. The Marianas Trench is about 10 kilometers deep, but that's just one little part. So we think Europa might have 2 to 3 times as much water as all of Earth. So then we have the Europa Lander. So this is what I was working on as well over the last 3 years. Now this is not official. Europa Clipper is going to launch in 2022 or 2023. Europa Lander is being thought about right now. They are designing it. We've been designing it over the last 3 years, and we're trying to show what it's going to take, how much it's going to cost, what's it going to look like, how would we land on the surface if we were told we could. So we have, this is an antenna, kind of looks like eyes. These are cameras that would take pictures of what we're doing, and then the antenna can talk to Earth. It's a big box that has all of our computers inside of it. It's a thick metal aluminum box that would protect from radiation all of the sensitive computer components. We've got these legs that could be formable, so we could land on a rough surface. And then we got a robotic arm with a, I like to call it a chainsaw. These are little saw blades on the end of it to go and cut down into the ice. And then there's a little shovel, a little scoop to scoop it up and put it into our little belly here. I'm calling this our belly, so it can go into some of the scientific instruments and computers we have on the inside. So this one's not official yet. They're still working on it. If it did get the green light and NASA and headquarters and everyone was like, yeah, go for it. Go out there, see if you can actually find life on the surface of Europa, it would launch in approximately 2026, 2027. Now, I haven't been working on this project for the last 3 months, but that was the last information that I knew about that we were working on together. So Europa Lander. So what we're looking for there is, I mentioned biosignatures before. So looking for those signs or those building blocks of life: the carbon, the hydrogen, the nitrogen, the oxygen, the phosphorus, and the sulfur. So this is an actual picture of the surface from our spacecraft Galileo. You see all these what look like fractures, these lines. So we did that thing with our fist where we opened it and closed it, so it was moving. So if you have ice, like if you're breaking an ice cube out of an ice tray, like the ice cracks. You can see there's cuts in it. Sometimes it breaks in half. That's what we think is happening to the surface because it's moving. And then because it breaks, that's where we would see these plumes. So we have this ice shell, and then it moves, so it breaks and cracks. And then there's that energy of the underwater volcano pushing stuff up, and then it's going to try and spew that out into space. And this plume materials is what we call it. So we think that might be happening, and we want to go out there, investigate, confirm what we think is going on, and see if we can find those biosignatures and learn more about the surface properties and its dynamics. So there's many, many other NASA missions. We have Cassini, which was out at Saturn, and we actually ended that mission last September, where we flew Cassini into Saturn and vaporized it. And that's because we were running out of fuel, and we weren't going to be able to steer Cassini anymore. And it has a moon around Saturn named Enceladus. That's kind of like Europa. It's frozen on the outside. We know that there's an ocean underneath. There are plumes. There's water spewing out into space. And there's potential for life there. And we thought that Cassini might have some Earth bugs on it. So we didn't want Cassini to actually run into Europa and put Earth bugs, or run into Enceladus and put Earth bugs on Enceladus. So when we go there, we want to make sure that we're testing for life or aliens in these moons that we didn't accidentally bring with us. So we have to make sure we're really, 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 really clean when we go out there. And Cassini, we don't think is clean enough, so we need to crash that into Saturn. Juno is out at Jupiter. It is orbiting around right now. It's been there for the last almost 2.5 years, since July 4th, 2016. And it is the furthest spacecraft to use solar panels. Those are these 3 arms right here. This thing is constantly spinning around the antenna. It's actually, NASA did fidget spinners before fidget spinners were a thing. So it's a huge fidget spinner just out in space, absorbing sun with these solar panels and learning about Jupiter. Then we have MSL, or Curiosity, the rover you saw me with right in the beginning. That's as big as a car, out there roving around, drilling into rocks, shooting its chemical laser from its ChemCam laser from its eyes down into the rocks to analyze it. And they're going to be launching another one, Mars 2020, which looks a lot like Curiosity. And it's going to see more information about the surface of Mars and actually prep samples. They're going to pick up some rocks, set them aside for maybe some other mission to go and grab those samples and bring them all the way back to Earth. And here's Dawn. Dawn is out in the asteroid belt learning about other rocks and formations. So we have many missions all over the place. And there's careers in every single category. If you guys want to be a part of NASA and help out, drive space exploration, learn new things, develop technologies that can come back and influence our everyday life here on Earth, bringing it down to Earth. Most of our employees at NASA were science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM. We have scientists, engineers, computer science, astronomers, many more. Anything that lies in the technological field, there's a spot at NASA. But most of us do that, 70% or more. And then we're a business, we are a company. So we have business relations, we have accounting, we have managers and secretaries. So if you like the business side of things and would like to get into NASA or space exploration and not be a scientist or an engineer, there's a spot for you. And then we also have a lot of creativity. So we're doing things that have never been done before. It's kind of hard to visualize some of these things, like a spacecraft out at Jupiter. We would need to send a second spacecraft to take a picture of that spacecraft out at Jupiter. So what we have is we have artists and designers that help us create things to communicate what's going on, what we're learning with everybody. These were the 3 posters that initially came out from the JPL Design Studio that really sparked conversation about needing artists and designers to help us share our stories for space exploration. These are 3 exoplanets that we found, and these were travel posters designed to show what it would be like if you went there. So this super Earth has a crap ton of gravity, and it would be like skydiving would be crazy. This Kepler-16b has 2 suns, so your shadow always has a companion. And then Kepler-186f, it looked like the foliage or the plants and trees on this planet were going to be red by the way the sun was giving off its light. So it says where the grass is always redder on the other side. So it's just different aspects, that we can show how we're doing what we're doing and communicate that with everyone, create excitement and inspiration for everyone. So if you want to work at NASA, no matter what you have an interest in doing, we can apply that to space exploration. There is a spot for you. And then NASA wants you. We have these posters like we're looking for the next generation of scientists, engineers, astronomers, designers, artists, business personnel to help us continue exploring space, pushing the frontiers of knowledge, learning new things, and inspiring the even next generation of explorers to come join us to keep on keeping on, to see if we can find those aliens out at Europa and to get to Mars and to colonize Mars. So we want you to keep working hard in school, participate, ask questions, help your friends out, pay attention, do your homework, go on to college, find whatever interests you and keep on pushing on with that and apply yourself. And one day we would love for you guys to come join us at NASA. I am still involved with NASA. I now work at the Aerospace Corporation, but I go back there. I'm still friends and involved in there. I would love to see you guys join up in that community and help us advance space exploration and then bring that stuff all back down to Earth and helping us improve our everyday lives. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation, learned a lot. Thank you very much for tuning in and staying with us and staying with me. This is one of my logos here. This is like me in cartoon form. You know, I got the biceps for American Ninja Warrior. I got some red hair, some orange hair, and I'm a rocket taking off. And at this point, I would like to see if you guys have any questions. You want to open up the floor. Hope you guys all had a great time and had a enjoyable experience from, let's see, we got Ontario and Texas and California, right? If I'm remembering correctly. And anybody else on YouTube Live, thank you for tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed it.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Kevin. Before we get to Q&A, I just want to note that we've got some groups watching on YouTube Live as well. If you guys want to pass on any questions in the chat bar, I can pass them on to Kevin. Also, Kevin, if you watch this clip later, you'll see every time you had audience participation, everybody participated. So well done.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah. All right. I know Miss Simon's class has to leave early today, so we're going to take 2 questions from them to start, and then we'll go through each class. So Miss Simon's class, you guys want to
hold on. Dorian, go right up to the camera. Go ahead, Dorian.
Is there any designs that you've used that have, that you've made that has been used?
Are there any designs that Are there any designs that I have made that have been used?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there are. They haven't flown yet. So Europa Clipper and Europa Lander, we're still building them and still designing them. The stuff that I've helped out is directly in that process. They are still putting them together. For Europa Clipper, they're buying things and starting to assemble it and do a lot of the tests. Europa is still just on the computer. It's still on computers or phones. That right now it's an imaginary world. So like the stuff that has been designed on the computers, it's there, and it just needs to be developed a little bit further to go into those spacecrafts.
Awesome.
Thank you for your question.
All right, back to Miss Simon's group. Again, if you guys have a second one, go right ahead.
Okay.
Hello.
What forms of life do you think will live on Europa, if there are any at all?
Yeah, to repeat the question, what forms of life do I think there are on Europa, if there are any at all? I would love, so it's got an ocean. I love to say space fish, that we're going to go out there and find some space fish in that ocean. Most likely, though, what we are actually looking for is microbacterial life. So tiny little bacteria that would be living out there. Like if you get a teaspoon of salt water, or like from the ocean. Like there are billions of microorganisms living within just that teaspoon of water. So that's the same stuff that we think is going to be, hopefully, that we find out at Europa. But I'd love to see an octopus or a shark or, you know, anything like that down in those waters.
Can you imagine the news cycle for Space Shark? It would be amazing. All right.
I think we got a new sci-fi movie there.
Yeah. Let's go to Miss Brecca's class. If you guys have a question.
What are questions?
Hold up.
Someone asked.
Did you have pillow?
Oh, how's American Ninja Warrior like?
Really?
What is American Ninja Warrior like?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't want to like go too crazy and like tell you guys exactly how everything works, but I will tell you is that when you're watching American Ninja Warrior, it's always dark, right? Like it's at night. That's because we actually compete from 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. Like it's overnight. So like when we're going and doing these obstacles, it's literally like midnight or 2 in the morning where I need to be at my best athletic performance to go and tackle these things after like maybe I just worked 8 hours on design a spacecraft, which that part makes it a little bit difficult, but it's so much fun. It's very unique. The community of people is so great. All the ninjas are really good friends. They're very open and welcoming. And in this type of competition, it's not like I hope you lose so I can win. We want everyone to succeed. It's like not hoping somebody falls so that I can go on to the next round. It's like I hope that they make it, because if they make it, like that's awesome. That's a really amazing community that's kind of similar to space exploration. Like there's Europa, there's Mars, there's Saturn. Like we all have our favorite place that we want to go and explore, but we don't want someone else's to like not get explored so we can do ours. We're always in support. So it's cool to see that in the ninja community as well, supporting everyone to advance. Just like in space, we want to find answers to the questions we don't have answers to, whatever that may be. So thanks for the question.
Very cool. All right. Let's go to Miss Sullivan's group. You guys have a question?
All right, there you go. Go ahead, sweet. What work did you do as a systems engineer at NASA's JPL?
What? Thank you for your question. What work did I do as a systems engineer at NASA JPL? Specifically for the Europa missions, I was involved in, so systems engineer is integrating the design. So I literally needed to know everything to figure out how this complex puzzle of a spacecraft is put together. So I use special software tools that could be known as model-based systems engineering. It's kind of a full jargon term that we use, where I use a computer program to write some computer code and build up the spacecraft design in the computer and put it all together. So I really looked at the power systems, how much each component is going to need. So like how many watts does the cell phone need to power? How many watts does the camera need? How many watts does the computer need? And to make sure that our solar arrays are big enough or our battery is large enough to make sure that that all fits together. So my job is to figure out how everything gets interconnected together, and I use computer programs to do so.
Cool.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, great questions, by the way, guys. Way to go. Let's go to Miss Woods' group. You guys have a question? Hey, guys, Miss Woods' class? Any questions?
Why did you leave NASA?
Why did I leave NASA? Very good question. It was a very hard decision to do. I was driving a really long ways to get to NASA. So I recently got engaged. So I'm going to be getting married in the next couple of years. And thank you. And I was driving an hour and a half to get to NASA every single day, one way. So I was spending 3 hours in a car. And it was really, really hard to do that. I'm still designing spacecrafts. I'm just doing it for the Air Force and the Department of Defense. So with the Aerospace Corporation, I'm designing the spacecrafts that are helping us stay safe for like military operations or communication or GPS. You guys use your cell phone to tell you where you're going. I'm helping make sure those satellites are still there or getting the new satellites ready to go up and to do that. But one of the big reasons that I actually left NASA was so I could do more of this. I want to talk to more kids. I want to have the opportunity to go out and teach a whole lot more. And this is a good step in that direction to help me go out and be a science educator on a more consistent basis. So it allows me to be more flexible to help you out. I wish I could do both, but I came to a point in my life where I needed to choose what direction I wanted to do in the next 5-10 years.
Well, we appreciate it. You're very good at it, so it's nice to have you here for outreach. And I'm sure your fiance is happy with a shorter drive. Awesome. Let's go to Ms. Booth's class. You guys have a question?
Okay.
Yep, you're good.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, that's not us.
Yeah, Ms. Booth's class. Yep, it is you.
I can hear somebody.
Hey guys, you can ask your question if you'd like.
Oh.
California, yeah.
Can I talk? Okay. Could you walk on Jupiter's moon?
Could you walk on Jupiter's moon? To repeat the question. Thank you for your question. That's a great one. Yes, you could, kinda. So it has a solid surface, so you could walk around. The hard part about it is there's really low gravity. So it's kind of like our moon, where you saw people walking around the moon and they're bouncing kind of like this. You'd be able to do that. The hard part, though, is that radiation. So that's why our spacecraft doesn't stay in there too long. So you could totally walk around. You just would get a ton of radiation on you, and you might not survive after a few minutes, maybe a couple days. It would be very bad for your health, but you could do it.
Kevin, just as a follow-up for some of the classes that might not know, are there places where you couldn't walk in the solar system?
Places you could not?
Yeah.
Yes, there are places you could not walk. So Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, the 4 outer planets that you see over here, these are known as the gaseous giants planets because they're big balls of gas. So they don't actually have a surface that you can walk on. Good question. Yeah.
All right, let's go to Mrs. Bose's class. So in Bolton, Ontario, you guys just need to demute your mic, and then you'll be good to go. I'll let you know when you're good. So, yep, go ahead.
The planet that has a bunch of holes that water is spraying, what would happen if more and more holes, more holes formed and more water was coming through to the planet? What's something that could happen to the planet?
All right, let me repeat the question to make sure I heard it all. If Europa or Enceladus, the planets, the moons that are leaking, I guess, out into space with their ocean, what would happen if there's more leaking, and could that be bad for the planet or the moon? Right? Yeah. Okay, good question. Yeah. So Europa or Enceladus, the one around Saturn, has been leaking for 200 million years, possibly. And that's actually what forms the E ring around Saturn, is all the stuff coming out of Enceladus, the ice and those particles, form one of the rings around Saturn. Now, what that means in terms of losing stuff, like is that bad for the planet or the moon? It does lose some of its insides of the ocean, but it's very, very small. So if you think about like taking a glass of water out of the ocean, it's kind of a good analogy of what's going on. It does take away a little bit, but it's not to the point of really hurting the moon or the planet to like make it go away or shrink in the short term of what we're looking at. But good question.
Yeah. All right, and then Miss Christensen's class, which every kid is like right up at the camera right now. If you guys have a question, mute your mic and take your time. No hurry. Fight for it. There you go.
We have 2 quick questions.
Okay, I need to move.
Relax. Relax.
It is not
It's okay. Is it working?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
you're
can
good.
hear you.
Okay, quick question. You go first. Thank you. Shh. He's gonna get in first. You're gonna go second. Okay. Can you give him some space, guys? David, what's your question?
So hi. How big are these structures of Lego?
How big are the structures of Legos?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they start off as like the tiny little blocks that you see. And I've built ones about this big. So we don't make them really huge. We make them small, so like a spacecraft that can fit in your hand and that I can hold and move around.
Awesome.
Did that answer your question?
Okay, so Jack, get in there.
Jack, stop. Hi. Have you found any life forms on any planets?
Say that again. Sorry.
Have you found any life forms on any planets?
All right. So to repeat the question, have we found life forms on any planets? I'm going to say yes, but it's only humans and animals on Earth. All right. So we've only found stuff on Earth. We have not yet found animals or planets or life forms or aliens off of the surface of Earth. So what we've seen, you guys have heard these words. You've heard physics, right? Or chemistry and geology. So we've seen all three of those on different planets and moons. We haven't found biology, which is what makes us us, on a different planet or a moon yet. So we're looking. We hope Europa does it, but the only place that we've currently found it is right here on Earth.
Awesome. Kevin, do you have time for 5 more questions from the
Yeah,
classes?
yeah, bring it on.
All right, so let's start with Miss Brecka's group. If you guys have a question.
Sorry. What is that? Say we have to go. We have to go.
Oh, we gotta go.
Are we on?
Yep.
We have to go. Bye bye.
Oh, you have to go. Okay.
All right.
Good question. Let's go to Miss Sullivan's class then. Yep. So Miss Sullivan, guys, come on up. There you go.
Hi. My name is Skyman, and my question was, what was your strongest subject in growing up?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it? It was a little bit choppy.
Yeah, it's what's your strongest subject in school? When you were growing up, what was your best subject?
Ooh, what was my strongest subject in school growing up? You might think naturally that that would be math and science. This is an amazing question because I struggled with math and science. Those were not my best subjects growing up. My best subject growing up would be gym class, if that counts, which is why the American Ninja Warrior. It would actually have been like social studies and history. That's where I received the best marks, like my A's. The math and the science was harder for me to understand, to learn, to get the good grades. I had to put in a lot more time to the math and sciences, but I knew that was what I needed to get into NASA, to become a rocket scientist and design spaceships. And I knew I had to put in the extra effort to get those good grades. So it didn't come easily to me. I had to take calculus twice. In high school, I went from AP physics to advanced physics down to just regular physics. I had to bring myself down. I almost had to drop a math class in 7th grade. I had to almost like go to a lower math class because I wasn't doing too well. So if you're struggling throughout any of your math and science or a class that pertains to what career you want, you just that's totally cool. I mean, I was struggling and I became a NASA rocket scientist. So there is no hope. There's hope, definitely. You just have to put in the time and the effort to make those things happen. So very good question. Thank you for bringing that up.
So Kevin, some of our classes are going to have to go soon because their day's ending. So I want to pass one more question on from a group online. Miss Deacon's class wanted to ask, are all planets round?
Are all the planets round? Yeah. Yes, to a point. They all are round-ish. And that's one of the definitions of a planet. It has 3 things. One is you have to have enough gravity to pull yourself into like a sphere, like a ball. The second one, you have to be on a predictable orbit around the sun. And then the third one is you have to be the gravitational dominant body, which means you have to be like strong enough to either knock moons or rocks out of your orbit or to bring in anything in your orbit and make it a moon. Now, we have found some moons that are not round. One of them looks like kind of like a ravioli where maybe like 2 rocks came and squished into each other. There's some moons out there that look like potatoes, but most of the planets are round, yes.
What's the moon that looks like a ravioli? I have to follow up.
Oh, that is Pan, P-A-N, and it's around Saturn.
Very cool. All right. So, Kevin, what we do at the end of every hangout, I know we're ending the day here for a lot of classes. I'm going to demute everyone's microphone. So, Miss Sullivan's group, Miss Woods' group, Miss Booth, Miss Christensen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome, guys. For our classes, we hope you join us for the rest of the month for more space hangouts. Kevin, that was outstanding. Thank you so much.